A warm welcome, everybody. From our side, glad that some of you are back. I see a lot of new people in the audience as well. This is also interesting that we have a core of participants, but also depending on the lecture, different others join us once in a while. So welcome to this new round of our interdisciplinary lecture series, Digital Sustainability Transformation of, by, and for the TUM, organized by the Professorship of Public Policy Analysis at the TUM School of Governance. We're really happy today that we have two experts focusing on a relatively new topic, which is emerging also and getting traction over the last years, namely the question of corporate digital responsibility, and also how does corporate digital responsibility relate to universities? What can we learn from this? We are glad that Marie Blachetta will join us, and Jens Rainer Jänik is already with us. Great that you spent your time with us. So, and both of our guests today have already a long-standing experience on this topic, and we are happy that you share your knowledge and your ideas with us. I would like to briefly introduce our two speakers, then talk a little bit about the format of this session as well. And then we jump right into the presentation. So I start with Jens Rainer Jänik because he's already here with us, and then give Marie some more time to join. So Jens Rainer Jänik is founder and managing partner of MC Quadrat, a consulting and public relations firm which advises enterprises and public institutions regarding corporate communication strategies, both within the institutions, but also with regard to external institutions. He is one of the early corporate digital responsibility enthusiasts. He is an editor of the online magazine Corporate Digital Responsibility, which is part of the initiative D21, I assume, as well. Jens Rainer obtained and studied economics at the Ruhr University in Bochum, and has many years from his profile, many years of experience as an entrepreneur, different firms. He's currently serving at the board of the initiative D21 and also as on the board of the Charta Digitale Vernetzung. So a broad overview, also not only with regard to corporate digital responsibility, but many other aspects of digital transformation as well. So welcome, Jens Rainer.
Thank you for having me.
Then I introduce Marie Blachetta. Marie works at the initiative D21. The initiative is one of Germany's largest nonprofit networks addressing issues related to digitalization, digital transformation. The idea of the initiative is that it connects businesses, policymakers, academia, civil society stakeholders with a goal to shed more light on the societal challenges of the digital transformation, and also to initiate debates how this transformation should be shaped in the future in a meaningful way. At D21, Marie is the editorial manager of the online magazine Corporate Digital Responsibility, and a project manager of the Digital Future Challenge, which she also will introduce later at the end of this session. In both positions, Marie aims to raise more awareness, create more awareness about the issue of corporate digital responsibility within organizations, but also in the society. Before joining Initiative D21, Marie was a researcher at the FU Berlin, where she obtained her BA in Business Administration and an MA in Management and Marketing. So we are really happy that you are with us today. I give a brief outline about the structure because it's a little bit different than usual. Today we have yet another format. Namely, we will stream a video of approximately 25 minutes that Jens Rainer and Marie prepared for us for this session. And so the video will serve as the basis for the Q&A then afterwards. So for the audience, please, send us your questions throughout the video using the Q&A or F&A function. And then we collect the questions, and I will then, as always, ask our experts the questions, and we have an open discussion after the video. As said, we have always recorded these sessions as well, so you will find them on the YouTube channel soon to come. So that's from my side. I'm not sure whether you want to say also a few words at the start, Jens Rainer, or whether we should directly jump into the...
Let's jump into the video. I try to get Marie into the call because she has some difficulties. So
okay.
See you in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction and invitation, Markus. We are delighted to be part of the Ringvorlesung Digital Sustainability Transformation of, by and for the TUM, and to share our ideas and insights about corporate digital responsibility. Our presentation will be divided into two sections. Firstly, I will give an introduction into the concept of CDR and shed light on the existing frameworks as well as the status quo of CDR in corporations, and Marie will give concrete examples of CDR activities for universities in the second part of our presentation. To our knowledge, there is no university at the moment that is publicly involving in digital responsibility activities. So we will transfer different facets of CDR activities from corporates, from cities, or federal institutions and integrate them into one scientific framework of CDR that was published in the Journal of Business Review last year. Let me start with an overarching understanding of digital responsibility. I still use this illustration, which I draw in 2017, to show that we have to look at digital responsibility from at least 4 perspectives.
First, there is a digital responsibility on the national or state level. Here, digital responsibility has to focus on designing general conditions by creating an awareness, acting responsible on governmental levels, put legislations into place and to define penalties in case defined regulations are violated. Second, there is a personal digital responsibility. With this, I mean that in a digital society, everybody has an individual responsibility. Third, there could arise something like a supernatural digital responsibility defined by an organization like the United Nations or its subordinated organizations like the Global Compact, which is actually working on this topic, as we know. And as fourth perspective, there is the CDR, which we will present in the coming minutes. And today the question is, where does the digital responsibility in science and scientific education fit best?
So why is CDR an urgent topic? From our perspective, there are 4 main reasons. Corporates are mostly the leading force when it comes to innovative digitalization.
Digitalization by corporates has sometimes disruptive impact on our society. Therefore, corporates have to take responsibility for the digitalization they enforce. Based on experiences from technology assessment practices, it should become standard to take responsibility for direct impacts and impacts that arise from new products or services subsequently.
To make it a bit more touchable, let me give you some examples.
Imagine a world where so-called wearables are omnipresent, or cities where every streetlight comes with CCTV, or a future where smart technology will control industrial production processes. I think we all would like to use these technology advantages and have the confidence that the companies behind these services take care about the impact their products could have on individual level as well as on a societal level.
Keeping this in mind, we would like to share a short animation which was designed by students from the University of Mannheim. It shows what CDR is all about.
Do you realize what a fast-moving and constantly changing world we live in? The digital age has long begun. Always at hand, smartphones allow us to access information whenever and wherever we want. Interconnected computing devices, also referred to as the Internet of Things, enable cars and even refrigerators to autonomously communicate with each other. Through artificial intelligence, machines are already capable of solving complex and creative tasks that go beyond the scope of human performance. And all the big data is stored in one encompassing virtualized pool of resources, the cloud. The prevalence of digitalization is becoming increasingly apparent in our daily lives, but entails many risks. Data security and privacy concerns, susceptibility to crime and terror, social disconnect and lockout effects, threats that machines eventually will overtake humans, just to name a few. Clearly, we need to ask ourselves, who should take responsibility for the ethical questions that emerge in the wake of the digital transformation? Is it consumers? Consumers can solve ethical dilemmas by avoiding digital products which do not meet their ethical standards and manipulating the market position of the producer indirectly via demand. However, insufficient transparency of privacy policies and increased complexity of data usage impede consumers to adequately assess digital processes. And even if consumers are able to do so, they are limited in finding realistic alternatives, as the use of digital technologies has become vital to perform daily activities. Or is it governments? Governments may provide frameworks through legislation. Nevertheless, the ethical questions arising in the context of the digital transformation are global in nature, whereas legal requirements are limited to regions. And most importantly, legislation is often simply too slow to keep up with the rapid pace of digitalization. Or is it corporations? Since the use of digital technologies occurs mainly at the interface between businesses and consumers, corporations can leverage this connectivity to effectively address ethical issues. In addition, it should be the natural responsibility of corporations designing and implementing digital assets, but also of those buying third-party digital solutions, to ensure that ethical values are embodied throughout the whole process. It seems corporations should step forward and take on responsibility. This is captured by the notion of corporate digital responsibility, which was derived from the broader concept of corporate responsibility, with the aim to extend this idea into the digital era. If you search for corporate digital responsibility, you will notice that there are relatively few, wide-ranging definitions for this quite new term. It is observable that a lot of them describe corporate digital responsibility as a rather passive commitment or accountability of companies with respect to their creation and operation of digital technology and data. According to this viewpoint, the main responsibility of a company in today's digital world is a reactive one. Companies should react to and anticipate ethical expectations and arising challenges appropriately. The key aspect of this reactive responsibility is to mitigate harm. That also includes to protect users' privacy and ensure data security, to make sure no negative effects occur from human-computer interactions, to establish and follow ethical guidelines for the development and deployment of digital assets, especially for algorithmic decision-making, to avoid lockout effects or any form of discrimination, to obey the law and simultaneously act within moral and ethical standards, or to minimize the environmental impact associated with digitalization.
Additionally to this introduction, we would like to build a bridge between CDR and the SDGs you are already familiar with.
These three examples show that corporates often think about CDR in strong relation to the SDGs. Telefonica, for example, support the 11th and 13th SDG by using mobile data to improve public transport. Deutsche Bahn focuses on SDG number 9 and 10 by reducing inequalities with an open data approach. And Otto Group identified learning for everyone as a driver of the future, which is related to SDG 4 and 8. If you are interested what these companies are exactly doing, we have pasted some project descriptions which you can read afterwards.
Because CDR is a new topic, there are no best practices yet. And like every fashionable topic, there's a risk that it is used for window dressing or purpose washing.
Having this in mind, some question may help to identify if a company or institution is driven by serious ambitions. Is CDR sponsored by the C-level? Do organizations use simultaneously top-down and bottom-up initiatives? Where is CDR sustainably embedded within the organizational structure? Are there dedicated resources for CDR? And what kind of CDR design is the starting point of CDR in the organization? Merck started, for example, with an ethic board. Veleda started with the corporate values and Deutsche Telekom with compliance issues. The Otto Group chose an overall societal approach, and Barmer, for example, did a strategic revision.
What we have been observing lately is the urge to develop CDR frameworks in order to give organizations orientation about how CDR can be understood, implemented, and lived. At the same time, organizations are craving for orientation, so this is an important development.
However, there is no the one and only answer yet. So our aim was to put the existing frameworks into the context of the different CDR development phases in order to approach the question which framework is helpful with regards of different CDR development stages. And it is very important to add that right now we observe that the stages are very heterogeneously occupied. While first movers as Otto Group are already within the first reflection loop, there are still plenty of organizations out there who have not interacted with the idea of CDR at all. To give you an idea about the different stages, we would like to dive deeper into a few of them. For example, raising awareness. To our understanding, this is the point where you actually start to actively appoint resources to CDR. And by resources, we mainly have time in mind at this stage, following some form of strategic analysis of CDR related to your organization. In the setup phase is mainly covering the operative aspects of CDR, looking at different spheres of CDR activities. For example, if the organization wants to focus on a special area of CDR. Our observation so far is that within this development stage, we won't find any frameworks as it is too specific and individualistic for each organization. Disintegration. Of course, we cannot look into the future, but as most of the organizational developments, it is most likely that at some point a form of disintegration will take place. We integrated some of the existing frameworks of CDR into the CDR development stages, and as you can see, they are addressing, to our mind, different stages. This is also the starting point to the second stage of our presentation and how universities, as the TUM, can address the topic of CDR. Time-wise, we can't get into the details of all the frameworks, so we picked the framework of Lobschat et al. To present you some further ideas. And with this, I hand over to Marie.
Thank you, Jens Rainer. Let's have a look what this means for the context of CDR at universities. We would like to focus on one of the frameworks we named on the previous slide. The framework of Lobschat et al. Is, to our mind, a very helpful groundwork to dive deeper into analyzing the digital responsibilities of a university. The framework is part of one of the first published journal articles to CDR. Overall, the definition of CDR of Lobschat et al. Rather comes from a cultural perspective. They define CDR as the set of shared values and norms guiding an organization's operations with respect to 4 main processes related to digital technology and data. And thus it differs, for example, from the definition of the students of Mannheim in the video we saw earlier. But as we said, there's no final definition of CDR existing yet. In general, this framework helps to set up some basic understanding of CDR while focusing on 4 main stakeholders as well as technology and data. When we are looking at digital responsibility in a non-corporate context, first of all, we can say developments are taking place already, for example, in the public sector. The German Federal Employment Agency implemented digital ethics at the Agentur für Arbeit. And also cities have been active in broaching the issue of CDR. There are initial CDR activities, for example, in Ulm, Munich, Bonn or Darmstadt. Darmstadt has implemented an ethic advisory council for digitalization projects, for instance. So what are the analogies to existing CDR activities for universities? Let's have a look at the 5 facets of this framework and connect them with existing examples and developments. Starting with a perspective on individual actors, 2 examples in the context of universities are employees and students. Basically, there are no great differences in this category with regards to the corporate perspective. Let me give you examples. Internal CDR activities related to employees can especially be seen in the context of employee education, for example, regarding digital literacy. Empowering university employees with digital competences could, for example, be built on the free AI ethics classes of the University of Helsinki and might be included in an overall TU Munich learning program for their employees. One current topic, certainly in times of COVID-19, is the question of digital detox and digital well-being, and how much digital time actually makes sense. We all heard about Zoom fatigue, and there are also consequences watching yourself the entire day on camera or even being recorded in video conferences. There are impacts on our digital well-being that should be considered. Organizations, as the focal element of CDR, tackle questions of values and norms in the understanding of Lobschat et al. So this perspective is very close in a university or corporate context. I would like to give 3 examples. For universities, digital ethics could be integrated into the curricula. Not only new classes, but also the existing ones should be challenged. And as we said earlier, one way to unmask purpose washing is to see, are investments into resources and responsibilities taking place, or is it simply embedded in the communications department? So the question for the university would be, where are they structurally embedding their CDR responsibilities? One step could be to establish a digital ethics boards within the governance structures of TU Munich. The 3rd stakeholder perspective focuses on institutional, governmental and legal actors. In this area are probably the greatest differences from a corporate and a university perspective. Universities are based on public money, most of them are. And one of the main requests is, if public money is used, public code should be standard. Of course, this might not always be easy regarding research, but it should certainly be reflected by the universities. And there are also target agreements with the federalistic education institutions, and in case of the TU Munich, with the Bavarian State Ministry for Science and the Arts. So in the future, there might be some requirements about digital responsibility included in these target agreements. There might be some influence of digital responsibility from an external power perspective, leading to maybe reporting obligations. So why not tackle them now proactively? One starting point for organizations are digital ethic codes, as we can, for example, see at BMW. Many digital ethics codes are based on 7 key requirements that AI systems should meet in order to be trustworthy. These were published by the EU. For example, technological robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, or societal and environmental well-being. This, of course, might be also a starting point for universities, where AI is more and more being used to deal with AI ethics guidelines. While preparing for this presentation, I came along a chatbot that's being developed by the University of Saarbrücken. This chatbot is supposed to take over tasks of lecturers, for example, answering questions about content or organizational questions in order to be available more flexible to the students. But the bot should also address psychological issues of the students. I don't know about this bot in depth, but it is very important that universities are aware of the extent of responsibility these kind of features have. The final CDA-related area we want to introduce to the context of universities is very broad. It's data and technology life cycles, and this includes a lot of topics. So we want to look closer at 2 of them. One aspect that is becoming more and more popular in terms of cities and digitalization is the sharing of data for public welfare. The mountains of data universities have could be helpful in other contexts too. Maybe TU Munich is one of the first smart universities. From another perspective, we already have too much data. A lot of data is not useful and not being used at all. The Otto Group started a project that's called Data Minimalism. This is also a chance for sustainability. And I think everyone here in this call is aware of the relationship of digitalization and sustainability. And we know that digitalization often has effects on sustainability. Digital responsibility also covers this aspect, and data minimalism might be a way for universities to reduce energy costs and resources in data centers. Coming back to our initial overview of digital responsibilities, Jens Reiner raised the question, where does the digital responsibility of universities belong in our figure? Our answer is, it only fits partially. Not only a lot of universities can be seen as close to corporate organizations. However, there are obviously more entanglements with state institutions, and thus we believe that even though we can find a lot of connecting factors with the CDR world, it should be positioned in between corporate and state digital responsibility, with a supplementary box of digital responsibility in science and education, or as you might say, universities' digital responsibility. Thank you very much for your attention, and now we are happy to open the discussion and talk about your ideas.
So, welcome back. Let me first see whether I can, yeah, there she is. So, Marie is also with us. So first of all, thank you very much for this great video, which I really liked, also because you were really trying hard to have this broad overview, giving an introduction to the topic and how you thought about it, and then really apply it to university and raise a lot of interesting questions in our context and what we should do. I call out to the audience to send us the questions so that we have a discussion. The first question, maybe I start with a icebreaker question from my side, and then we introduce the other ones as well. So what I was thinking, and I know that you have your thoughts on this. So what is the exact relationship between CDR and CSR, so the corporate social responsibility concept? Can you talk a little bit about the differentiation? So why do we need this? And I think you have valid points that we need this other concept, but maybe you can clarify a little bit more.
Marie, would you like to start? Okay, so it's interesting. We have this discussion many times. So if you talk to someone who is in the CSR or deeply in the field of CSR, for most of them, it's just an extended version of CSR, and they usually don't speak about CSR; they speak about CR. So for someone who's deep into this, it's the next step to design a CR in a digitalized world. So, but from or especially from my point of view, it's CDR maybe the CR of the future or part of the CR of the future, but I think it's a good way not to start with the patterns of CSR. Just let's find out if there's something new and something different to the CSR approach. So give it some time to develop and then merge it together with the CR that we have today.
Marie,
I might also, yeah, I might add that sometimes people say CSR is like the biggest sister of CDR, for example. But for us, it's basically more separate ideas within corporates, and they all sum up to the idea of corporate responsibility, but we wouldn't call it a sibling relationship or anything like that, because they have quite different activities, at least in some points, inside their task force, I would say. So there is a difference, and but of course there are also parts that are very close to each other, or that might even be overlapping.
Mm-hmm. One question from the audience, and this is already focusing on the second part of your presentation. When you think, can you name maybe like one or two of the most important tasks of universities with regard to CDR? So what would you say, like, from all your examples and maybe also others, you know, where should we start? Which is the most important, the crucial aspects?
I wouldn't say there's the one activity to start with, but it's I think it's important to start with one step. It is important to start and to start your reflection process, and to embed the ideas of digital ethics within the organization. And if it's the easiest way for you to start with digital education aspects, for example, there you go. And it's good if there's one starting point. But from my perspective, it's really important to see where the organization is right now, and to focus on the individual organization, and to see where the potentials are. Do you have the same idea, Jens Reiner?
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Nothing to add. Just saying.
Then I have also here a question, another one with regard also to, of course, the university setting from the students. So if you think about, like, you know, and you stress this, like data literacy and the understanding of the digital processes. So what do you think, what are the crucial and, again, most important fields that need to be taught in with regard to digital literacy? What are crucial aspects that these courses should be covered from your perspective?
What I really think is very interesting is that there are organizations out there who teach digital competences or digital literacy, whatever name you might say, but there are some out there who teach them with regards only to the work context, so the specific context within the work. But then there are also organizations out there who teach it in a more broader sense. So it's more like empowering the person to be digital literate and within the entire life, and not only within the work context. So I would say that's a very interesting idea, to empower the person in a broader perspective, and not only in the work context.
Maybe I would add that it's important to learn that even digitalization has direct impacts and follow-up impacts. So you have to keep in mind what the second or third impact my digitalization might lead to. And this comes from, and we have already had that with technology assessment. So there was a thinking like this, and we talked to Professor Dex, help me, Marie, Decker.
Yes.
Right, from Karlsruhe, and he mentioned that there's that he is he gets a lot of questions about the impact of digitalization. So I think this might be an point to add.
Yeah, also I would say that we see a revival of this technology assessment, you know, and kind of like thinking about the long-term and the short-term consequences. What I find interesting, because you also mentioned it from the, you know, Zoom fatigue and other ways, it's kind of like that it might also shift over time, right? Like the way you are, you think about the problems and how you feel about these problems. You know, at the first part we were really hyped, and you know we're super interested in having online meetings, and now over time we see also the negative consequences, or you know, or see the challenges. So I think kind of like, I'm not sure, maybe you can say something a little bit about your advising work. So how do you deal with these, you know, shifting dynamics? Because, you know, I think one of the problems with the that you might experience, so that's a question that I ask, is that there is no kind of like real flow, and you know, it's really a complex pattern how to deal with these issues, and they might constantly shift depending on context and circumstances. So is this something that you experience in your work, that it's idiosyncratic and really, you know, often changing, or would you say like, no, that's just now, you know, but we see overall trends and can address certain issues?
Well, I would probably say that overall it's more the pandemic factor that is now coming up, but in general I would say that the different facets of CDR, they are just so complex, and there's so many dimensions of it, and so many different activities organizations can address. So I would say it's in this kind of way, it's probably dynamic because there are so many different activities. But overall, I would say it's not too dynamic, even though digitalization always was dynamic. It's a dynamic process.
I have also a question for Jens Reiner directly. What is MS Quadrat, your firm, what is it doing in the in the context of CDR? How do you advise in your daily business?
We do not. We do
Okay.
not. I decided not to do, because when we started the online magazine, I decided I can't do the journalistic part while consulting companies or institutions. But we consult the digitalization or digital transformation within organizations. So it's a topic for us, and we are totally aware of it, but we do not do any consulting in the field of CDR at the moment, because I'm the editor and I would like to be as neutral as possible, and so that's the reason why.
What are then the main aspects that you do consultation on with regard to digital transformation?
So we consult via our main claim is transformation needs communication. So from this point of view, to do a good transformation and even a digital transformation, you need a good communication, and that is what we are doing for many years now. And that means for organizations as well as for society, because if you think about smart cities, this is a digitalization process within the whole community of a city, and it should be supported by a good communication to be understood by every part of the society.
Then another question from the audience, also again towards the university, the responsibility of the university. Would you say universities have a higher responsibility due to their role at this intersection where you put it? And then kind of really specifically, maybe the TUM has an even higher responsibility because it's the TUM and has like, you know, that comes with the entrepreneurial spirit and the, you know, the entrepreneurial perspective that we have, but also kind of like with other regards to research. So what is your ideas on that question?
Marie?
I'm not quite sure, actually. I would say everyone has this digital responsibility, and it's important that you're aware of it and that you do like your best and to reflect the process. I wouldn't say it's a higher responsibility, maybe because it's public money. That's what we said on one slide, but there are certainly areas where you can say public money also should result into like public results. So I'm not quite sure. What do you say, Jens Rainer?
Yeah. So from my point of view, in the focus, it's about corporations because they are shaping the future by their innovative products and services. So that's the reason why I think it's a mostly corporate digital responsibility. When it comes to university, I think it might be very important, and it's an important topic when you innovate. So when you do innovation for the digital age or in the digitalization of society, then you have to think what you are doing. And of course, you are shaping the mindset of all the students you have. And from that was on one slide, I think you have to check if there's any possibility to integrate an understanding of digital responsibility in the lecture process or in the curricula of every part you teach at university.
Mm.
And maybe you have to rewrite it.
Mm. Maybe I can jump on what you now mentioned with the responsibility of corporations, also linked to this topic of, like included when you innovate. So there's the saying of like, move fast and break things, right? How would you say that does CDR, play into this, Zuckerberg paradigm? Does it
exactly? This is the mantra from the early times of digitalization. I think it was a little bit like the Wild West. So everything was allowed, and there was no sheriff in town. And I think now we have understood that we have to think twice before we implement new digital services. And that even if it looks like they will enhance our quality of life, maybe there is a substantial influence of our society and our living together in society. And we have to think if we want to have that. Not everything that could be done should be done. And that that fits for the digital age as well.
Mm-hmm. There we have.
Then also at the same time, what we can see is that startups are not really into the digital responsibility aspect right now, because, for example, in these accelerator programs, and there are these lecturers also included in some of them, and we spoke to some startups, and they really haven't heard about it before, about this topic. And also venture capitalists, we tried to find out if they have any kind of aspects in their ratings, and for now it doesn't seem that that's really embedded in their ideas. So I think there's still a long way to go in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I also thought about this when you presented your examples, in the video. So it was not like I would say like the startup upcoming firms. It was more I mean, Otto is not a startup. It has been around for a while now, and it's these actors that you pointed out. That was interesting.
Maybe it is why because they are already developed corporate citizens, and they know about their responsibility as a corporate citizen. And that is something different when you are a startup. Maybe you don't think that much about my corporate citizenship within the society I live in, because maybe I move as fast, or when the money comes from a different place, so I move to another town. I'm not committed that much to the environment I work in. So maybe that's a reason.
But then also at the same time, we have to say that there are a lot of founders naturally embedding the idea of responsibility within their business models. So there are a lot of them starting like startups now in this direction. So maybe they're not aware of this this CDR word or the idea of this construct, but they have this naturally embedded in their business plans.
One other question also on the societal level, and it also refers to the, I think was in the video from the student group of Mannheim, where you had like, you know, legislation is too slow to address, and kind of like corporations have to step in. So the question is still kind of like, what is the role of the state that it should play? You know, at what point would you say, like, you know, here the state has to step in, or is it like a market-oriented approach where everything goes to the corporations and the state has, you know, has to step back?
Marie?
I think that's the perfect question for you, actually, Anton.
No, I think from my point of view, at the moment, the CDR initiative at the BMJV, Bundesjustiz oder Ministerium für Justiz und Verbraucherschutz, is doing the right thing. They are raising awareness for CDR, and hopefully they don't start too early to set standards, because from my point of view, we are still in a phase of competing ideas, how to handle, how to do CDR, and give them some time to develop before you write first legislative norms or rules. So that's my point of view. Give the market of ideas, not the market, but the competition of ideas time that we see as many approaches as possible to find out what really fits for bigger companies, what fits for SMEs, because that's the difference.
Marie, you want to add something, or is it?
No, I think that's the perfect answer. I would maybe just add that there are a lot of discussions going on about this question right now. I mean, there's always the question: is it even possible to do some legislation framework for this fast-moving area? And aren't we always like 5 years behind in this process? And on the other hand, one other issue is that when we come back to this purpose washing aspect, for example, we don't know the answer, but we see that companies are coming up with communications and branding aspects of CDR, and the question is, how can we get objective ways to analyze the CDR? So don't we need some reporting things? Don't we need some legal aspects to see whether it's going into the right direction, or whether it's only purpose washing? So it's hard to say, really. It's still a field where that's not really where no one has the answer right now, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Unsurprisingly, this is, you know, now come follow-up questions on this topic. We have one from the audience, and I also have one with regard what Jens Rainer said. And you pick and choose what you take out of this and what you would like to answer. So the first question is it really that we are still at this emerging state, you know, and don't know yet where it evolves, or isn't that kind of like a part of a, you know, a specific narrative? Because let's take, for example, the social media example, and we know already that some, you know, way the technology is implemented is not good for us. It's not good on the personal level. It's not healthy on the group level, and it's not healthy on the big societal level for democracy, if we think about some, the way how social media works. So the question is, shouldn't the state step in at this point? So where we already know that it's not working, and where we had the Wild West and corporations, only partially gave ground now to a little bit more regulation. And the second part that links to that part is kind of like, who should set the standards? So should set standards in society, if not democratically elected bodies, because corporations are
yes, of course,
not.
Difficult question. I think let me start with the last point. I think of course the state should set the standard, but the legislative body needs the dialogue with the corporations. Otherwise there is no good standardization, because you need some insights before you set a standard. And I think exactly that is happening within the CDR initiative. At this point, it's a dialogue, a process of dialogues, and it should be open, or it is open to even smaller companies, because at the moment there are many big companies involved into this. But we just had a meeting today, Marie and me, and we talked about the problems and challenges for SMEs related to CDR. And the other point was, Markus, was
with regards to that, we already know that some stuff.
I don't think we know that, because from a societal point of view, we are only for a short period of time into digitalization. Of course, we have computers for decades now, but what's happening today started only a few. Of course, it's more than 10 years. Let's say 20 years, but not longer. And so it's only a short period of time when you think about society changes within society.
Mm-hmm. I think
maybe we shouldn't also forget that there already are some legal
yes, of course,
aspects covered. There's Netzbegeg, and DSGVO, and also now there's this AI ethics aspect on the EU level. So there are on different levels already developments taking place. So it's not a law-free area that we are in. So it's just the question, at what time do we need what step, I would say. So and there's the it's an ongoing discussion, I would say.
Mm-hmm. No, I fully see your point there. I mean, this was just kind of like also playing devil's advocate here, and I think what you stressed a lot is kind of like that, networking, communication, and kind of like having networks and initiatives that bring together different stakeholders and then think about these standards is important. And this relates to another question that came from the audience. Can you describe a little bit more what you already do with regard to advising policymakers or institutions in public administration? You mentioned your work with the Department for Justice and Consumer Relations. Can you point out other initiatives where you directly influence policymakers or are in discussions with policymakers?
Marie.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
No.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, I would say, because it's not always the formal areas that are the formal arenas where this discussion take place. But what we are doing with the online magazine, for example, we are interviewing different actors within this segment, and by that we also raise some awareness of this topic, and that's probably what we do from the online magazine. part. But then also we have like online webinars or online conferences with different stakeholders about what CDR means, about what other frameworks, what are ideas about CDR. And we also have the Digital Future Challenge now, that is where the Schirmherrschaft is located at the BMJV. So that's also, I think there are like different areas where we have contact with these political stakeholders. Did I forget anything?
Another question from the audience, and this goes a little bit back now again to the discussion that we already had, but maybe we can also add a new aspect to it. So the question is kind of like, what is the role of the state in order to have a healthy competition and create the market in a sense? So the person from the audience is of course referring again to, like, Facebook, Amazon, and the big players that dominate the market at the moment with their business models and their institutions. So does the government need stricter rules here? And maybe, now the new aspect, because you mentioned a lot of that you work with small companies also, maybe you can talk a little bit about the smaller companies as well, how they experience it, because, of course, most of us focus always on these big players and have these kind of like doomsday scenarios in mind, but maybe you can say a little bit more how the reality looks like for smaller companies.
There is, from my point of view, we don't have that much insights into smaller companies. That's the reason why we talked today to someone who's working with SMEs, because we thought about how to handle CDR within a company with only 50, 60 or 100 employees. So you don't have a department or dedicated department for CSR. So where should you, who should take responsibility for CDR? Of course, always at the top, but it starts at the top, but it's a difficult question. Yeah, regarding the question, that's difficult to say in German, because I think what we experience is a clash of economic cultures at the moment, because a company like Facebook, Amazon, Google, Netflix, and co. come from a different economic background. So the economic culture in the US is totally different to the European economic culture. And I think this is something where we have to find out which or how important are our European values for shaping the competition. So because in the US you have the mantra, so the winner takes it all. And is it what we want? Because we had, I think, when I studied economics, so the monopoly was never the best market form. So, but what else does it mean? Mm-hmm. So, Marie, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the overall question, really. The how the discourse is being shaped by Europe in general. I don't know if we can have this German-focused debate, or if it is a more like a European or maybe a global way of thinking that should be addressed here. So there's still a lot of things taking place right now, and I think if we want to see this European way, this value related way, that's I think that's already been started. And Katharina Vallée, for example, told us she sees a competitive advantage for Europe within this approach. So I don't think we can only focus on Germany in this area here. And regarding the other question about the SMEs, I think it's also a question of resource allocation, really, because there are no resources. It's not only the 50 or 60 or 100 people companies, but it's also the one-person company in the end. So how is this person supposed to have all the competences and to get involved in all these different ideas and also what the legal context is? So we have to see and to find a way how we can help these SMEs to give them some guidelines and to give them some examples of the way other companies and other organizations went forward. So that's really where I also see our role to give these to give these examples and to show ideas on what might be a first step or what might be different levels where you can implement CDR activities. And that's I think that's the biggest question for the SME sector, to see if they want to get into CDR, to help them have an easy starting point, or to let them use their resources in the best possible way, actually.
Yeah, maybe for the audience, hand in your last questions now. Marie, do you want to later also give a brief introduction about the Digital Future Challenge as well, or is it with a handy?
Yeah, I know. I can't put on my presentation now, but I can give a little bit of talk.
Okay,
yeah.
so last call to the audience, hand in some questions, and then I have one more maybe, and then yeah, we see. Last round of questions, and this goes a little bit back now to the beginning also of your talk and how you presented it. Jens Rainer, in one of your earliest slides, I think, kind of like where you said like CDR and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and where you put the two on the same slide. Can you, because this is also, I mean, embedded in our title of the lecture, can you name, both of you, maybe kind of like, one or two of the crucial trade-offs that you see, where you see like this is really difficult to, where the goals of CDR clash with the Sustainable Development Goals, or where you also say like these are the two areas where you would say like here that's the main example where the two go hand in hand, and they are aligned as well.
As I think at the moment I see only one big clash, and this is because digitalization is of course energy consuming, so we have to keep this in mind. And sometimes I mention, so maybe the SUV of the future is my Netflix stream, because whenever I watch something at Netflix and be distracted and let it run, it consumes energy. So think about it. No. But on the other hand, digitalization can support, I think, nearly every SDG, directly or in the background. So, and in the moment we discussed the sustainable digitalization, because it's a little bit modern at the moment to combine these two mainstream buzzwords, let's say it. And we had a very interesting discussion about where do the two perspectives merge when you look from a corporate perspective. So is your starting point the sustainability because you are used to it, or is your starting point to CDR the digitalization? So it was a new model from Martin von Broek we discussed. Yeah, that's from my point of view. Marie?
Hard to say, I would say, actually, because the clash is the resource dimension, I would say, as well as Jens Rainer also pointed out. But I would really focus on the potential, and if you have some time, I would really recommend to go into this brochure where it's really shown by examples from organizations. That's I don't know. I think it's more than 10 examples in this brochure how they combine, how organizations in real life combine the SDGs with the CDR activities, and it's really broad. It was hard for us actually to pick those three because there were a couple of them that are really good, from Zalando and the Retour system, and also Deutsche Bahn. There are a lot of examples in there, and I would highly recommend to have a look into this brochure to see what potentials are in this combination of both areas.
Yeah, I like the way how you put it, in the sense like, of course, the potentials, and then, you know, combine what you said earlier, kind of like think hard about like unintended and yeah, long-term aspects of that, you know, that it needs to be embedded into a rigorous system, so to speak, you know, or in a broader framework, and then it makes sense. Yeah, Marie, then I would maybe give you the floor for the last couple of minutes to introduce us also to the Digital Future Challenge, which of course is a really awesome idea that you put forward there.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, now I can't use my presentation slides, but I'll try to give you all the relevant information. The Digital Future Challenge is a project that's initiated by the Deloitte Stiftung and Initiative D21. And this year we also have the BMJV and the Bertelsmann Stiftung as our supporters. And even the Bundesministerin Christine Lambrecht is our Schirmherrin. We have 10 cases that I would say are really interesting, actually, from two focus areas: digital sustainability and digital literacy. And we just want to give students in Germany the opportunity to work on these cases and to answer questions about these two topics, and to promote their ideas and to present them in front of a jury we have. And yeah, there will be pitches in the semi-final, and also some prizes, of course, that can be won for the students. So it's the only problem kind of is that you have to act fast and be quick with your ideas, because the deadline is at the end of May, but it's still plenty of time. So maybe you have a look at Initiative D21.de, where you will find the Digital Future Challenge, or you can just Google it and you will find it. And yeah, you have to find a team of like 3 to 6 members. 3 to 6 members, and then you can hand in your ideas. There's also a template and that you can work on. So it's actually quite easy to write down your idea of our digital future. And yeah, we are really interested what we will be seeing as the ideas for the students, because I think that's also what we already talked about here. Universities have this responsibility, but also everyone has the responsibility in our society to see that that the digital future is leading into a good way. And so, yeah, let's see what your ideas are.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, we will and have already some promoted the challenge among our students. I think it's a really cool project. That you now have in the second year, right? And yeah, it will be a success. So if you don't hand in an idea this year, students will still have, you know, the opportunity to hand their ideas in next year.
Maybe this year and next year.
And exactly.
Yeah, go for it. It was so. Last year I was part of the jury, and it was really amazing to see the ideas. And as I understood, Marie, I think at least one of the ideas is now a startup. So
yeah, the winner team is the Digital Wombats, and their idea is related to digital privacy aspects. And yeah, they are an initiative now, and they are very successful. Yeah, it's really cool to see their development. And there's also one other aspect that I forgot now because I didn't have my presentation. We have an online panel on Thursday that's taking place, and it's from 5 p.m. onwards, I think. And there are really nice with the topic Solidarität im Netz and what the responsibility for the corporations are in this context. So if you are interested, you can register and then we get a Zoom link.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe I end now on something that Marie said before the introduction of the Digital Future Challenge, and namely that kind of like the personal responsibility and kind of like also the power that each of us has, and this was also something that we came up during the creation of this lecture, which emerged later on, that we kind of really believe in this that each of us can and should and has the responsibility to contribute to both of these, as Jens Rainer said, buzzwords, but also kind of like trends, of course, that will stay with us.
Trends.
So thanks to the audience. I would ask you maybe to stick around a few more seconds, Marie and Jens Rainer. And thank you to the audience for your time, and hopefully we see each other after the Pentecost break, where we have our presentation and the talk on digital health, so we're entering then the social part of our series. So thank you, have a nice evening, bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.